Hello, everyone, and welcome to Accessibility News. Today, Tracy Delisle and I are going to be speaking with Adriana Mallozzi. Adriana has cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair and is a huge advocate for accessibility, is working in it to help make things better for people around the world. Real quick, my name is Glenn Ingram. I own a web business that focuses on accessibility. I'm certified in accessibility internationally and want to make sure that the internet is accessible for all. Tracy, could you introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, I'm Tracy Delisle with Certified Access Services, and we provide accessibility inspections to businesses and help them bring their property and business up to compliance. We also help educate employees and let others know that there are ways that they can be compliant and increase their business by bringing it into compliance and advertising that out to some of the disabled that weren't able to enjoy their businesses. And Adriana, it is amazing. I'm so excited that you're here with us today.
Oh, thank you.
Such a treat.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Adriana?
Sure. I'm Adriana Mallozzi. I have CP, as Glenn mentioned. I have a startup called Puffin Innovations where we're developing a mouth-operated input device for people with limited mobility in their upper extremities to use all of their consumer electronics. So we're using AI and machine learning so the device adapts to the user instead of the other way around. I'm also a co-founder of something else, another startup called Quark Labs. Lab stands for leveraging all abilities for better solutions. And for that, we are supporting and empowering people with disabilities who are aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, or freelancers. We also envision the space to include larger organizations to come and have their products tested by real people living with real disabilities. So that is what I'm doing.
Well, who knows better what you need than you, right?
Yes.
I mean, we can guess, but coming straight from someone who knows exactly what you need is probably such a great way to introduce products. Now, are you the inventor of the Puffin product, or are you just part of a group then? That's great.
So yes, the Puffin is my baby. It was all in my head for a really long time, and I was lucky enough to be part of a hackathon at MIT, and we ended up winning first place that year. So there were about 14 of us, 14 different projects, and we ended up in 10 hours building a working version of this, and obviously it has since evolved since the hackathon, but it looks a lot prettier than it did that day. But yeah, it was an idea that I had, just been bouncing around in my head for a really long time, and now it's a reality.
That's awesome. I mean, because I think Tracy and I always share with people about the different obstacles that some of us take for granted that other people have to encounter. So, I mean, can you kind of tell a little bit about the Puffin and kind of what it does to help you with different types of devices, whether it be a phone, a computer, and different things like that, Adriana?
Yeah, so, typically, if I'm not in my power chair, I have no control of anything. So my power chair is basically my control center, I like to call it. And, despite what a lot of people believe, we do not live in our wheelchairs. We don't sleep in our wheelchairs. And so when I'm not in this chair, I can't do anything. And so I know many other people who don't even own a smartphone or mobile device because they physically can't use it or interact with it. And in today's world without having a mobile device. A mobile device literally connects you to the whole world. You can do anything with it, right? You can read books, you can shop, you can take a class. The possibilities are endless using a mobile device, controlling one's environment. So this is why I came up with this, because I'm not in my chair, and many people don't live in their chairs. And so I wanted a device that was small enough, portable enough, and modular to be used wherever the user would like. So if they're in bed, if they're sitting on their couch, if they're on vacation on the beach and want to read a book on their tablet or whatever, that is the use case of my device. And it connects wirelessly via Bluetooth to any device. So now, since iOS 13 allows or has allowed mouse functionality, our device now also works with iOS. So it's all cross platforms. It's great.
Now, you forgot to mention the most important part of all this functionality that was on your video that allows you to order Starbucks.
Yes, I know. I mean, it's funny because in that video, we were just wondering, would Starbucks notice that? But no, Starbucks has not reached out, and I don't have a lifetime, supply of Starbucks. But yeah, I do enjoy my Starbucks every now and then.
That is great. I have a feeling that once you get your mind set on something, there's really no stopping you. It's great to, when I was reading a little bit about the product before we went on, and one of the things that I actually thought is I thought it was something that you could only use within your chair. So that's great. So is it something about this device that you have to blow into, you bite, you move with your mouth? What is it that makes this function different than I've seen some others with another type of apparatus that they put in their mouth to help move around their chair?
Right. Yes. So it is similar to a typical joystick in the fact that you move the shaft of the joystick in any direction that you want your pointer to go. But what's different is, so originally at the hackathon, it was a sip and puff, which is why we came up with the Puffin. It also ended up having an orange tip at the time because those were the supplies that were available. And so it was black, gray, and orange, and it did look like a Puffin. So that was why the original name was Puffin. Right now, we do have on the tip, there's an optical button and a physical button. So those do the left and the right click, and we have an app that goes along with the device, so the user has complete control of all of the device settings. So speed, sensitivity, what the buttons do, like what they actually do when you interact with them, etc. So yeah.
That is incredible. And like I said in the beginning, there's nobody better to come up with these devices than somebody who knows exactly. I wouldn't have even thought of something like that. That's just incredible. And I can't wait to share it with a lot of the folks that I work with and tell them about this product that, they may not even know about it. Are you finding that children are starting to learn this earlier on? Because, big thing for kids is, playing the games and doing those things. Are you finding that this is also helpful to them at a younger age, or is it not yet hit that area?
So we believe that it definitely would be. We do not have the credentials to test with children right now. So we haven't officially been able to have children test our product. But we hope to, because we know that especially the mouth part, the device that goes in your mouth would have to be much smaller for a child's mouth.
Right.
And so that is something that we would like to do, but we just don't have those credentials yet to be able to do any testing with children. But I think once we start manufacturing and build up some customer base, then we can move on to tackle the under 18 crowd.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. It's, I'm a huge advocate of promoting independence, and what a world it opens up for you.
Definitely.
This is kind of like what we talk about a lot of time is, overcoming obstacles and having obstacles that you encounter on a daily basis. I know Tracy works a lot with the physical space. So can you kind of share, sometimes when you're out and about going to a Starbucks, hopefully not a Starbucks, or some other type of restaurant, and just some of the obstacles that you encounter on a regular basis?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, obviously, because I have not been anywhere in over a year.
It's close.
I know. I am fully vaccinated, so beginning this weekend, I will be venturing out more. But yes, restaurants are particularly the most difficult, because obviously restaurants want to pack as many people as they can. It makes sense, right? Business sense. Yeah. But it's so difficult for a wheelchair user to navigate to a table, and it always feels like you get the table all the way in the back, so you have to disturb everyone along the way to stand up, push their chair in. It is just the worst, and it's uncomfortable, as a patron, because you feel bad that this person is being interrupted in their own, meal and experience of whatever it is, that they're out for. And I wouldn't appreciate being disturbed, right? That's just, we're all human, and so it just makes it a very uncomfortable situation. Another thing is not a physical barrier, but more of attitudinal barriers where people are just, ignore. I've gone out with family, and I've never gotten a meal. There were many times where my order just never came, ever. And I don't know if I'm just I was ignored or what the deal was. Also, if I'm with someone, and typically I'm with non-disabled people, such as family members and friends, and they'll look at them to ask what I want. And that person will be like, well, you can talk to her. She can answer, and I'll be answering, and they'll still look at that person and say, so, is this okay? Is that okay? And I'm like, hello, I'm answering your question. Like, look at me. I can answer. I can read. Or they won't give me a menu. Mm-hmm. That's another thing. They won't give me a menu. And I'm like, I'm capable of reading a menu. I'm capable of ordering. So those are some of the major obstacles when it comes to going to a restaurant or an eatery in general.
Yes, and I ask the question when I am talking to employees and say, why do you do that? Because this is a very common thing that they do. And they said, because we're afraid. Why are you afraid? What are you afraid of? Well, I don't want to assume. And I said, no, you need to assume that they absolutely can.
Right.
Look
Right.
at them in the same confidence that you're looking at me. You don't know if I can read. You can't look at me and say, oh, I know she knows how to read. So don't assume it. And remember that they're not all out trying to sue you.
Right.
So
exactly.
they're just trying to have a great experience out to dinner with their family. So please don't ignore them, but also be considerate of where they place things. And things like that. But somebody's going to warn you, oh yeah, no, or I'll help you. They'll jump in if they do need the assistance, but assume that everything is okay. And if it's not, they will then assist you. So I do educate, people on that and give them the free forum in which to say why they do it, and try to take the fear away, but also make them understand that, you just want to be treated as equal and don't want to be different. You don't want to be identified as being anything different. And so really promoting that and moving those tables is a huge deal. Yeah. I mean, most people want to get up and move it, but you don't want to inconvenience people. You just want to be able to go in. So the placement of tables and seating area is important. Yeah. And I always tell them it's like the Dirty Dancing show that you can't put baby in the corner.
Yeah, yeah, and always
in the corner.
Yeah, and I like to say always assume competence, right?
Yes.
Always assume competence. You don't know what someone can and cannot do, and that's in general. It's not just for people with disabilities; it's everyone. So always assume competence unless otherwise informed.
That's right. That's right. I said that you can't look at me and know that I can read. And if I'm someone like that, I'm probably going to ask you what's the specials or what's your favorite meal or things like that. But you're still going to hand me the menu. You're not going to assume it. So in the same way that you can see someone has a physical disability, you treat them exactly the same unless someone lets you know different. And a lot of them are kind of taken back by that. And so I think that it is a great message that's out there, and I'm grateful to hear it from you as well, because sometimes it's much easier for people to understand when it comes from someone who has a disability that does affect, and want you to make, we do everything we can to get that message out so that you are treated equally. Because we all want to be independent and we don't want to stand out. I mean, I certainly don't want to stand out, right? Exactly. I mean, we don't want to stand out. Unless I show up in a clown outfit, I don't want to stand out. I just want to, I want to blend in. I want to be the chameleon.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to your statement there, Tracy, we're speaking about reading. I mean, a lot of us would not ever think about this, but as someone that grew up in the 80s in a rural area, there were people out there that still did not read. So if you handed it them and they didn't, they would then talk to whoever they were with and do it, but they wouldn't want to be called out on that either. And I think it's just, giving people the respect to let them make a decision, and they'll tell you how to react to them or how to do something without making assumptions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. That also reminded me when you said fear, and it's just funny that people are afraid to approach people with disabilities. That just triggered a memory. So when I was in AP Bio in high school, we each had to pick a topic to do a report on our presentation. And that year, I forget what the subject was, but I picked myself about CP. I figured, this is perfect. And so I was doing my presentation, and this was the end of the school year. And someone actually raised their hand that I had been in a class with the whole school year. Can you catch it? And I had just finished explaining what CP was, or CP is. And I was like, wait, how are we in AP Bio right now? Like, how did this? But that's the thing, like the fear, I just don't understand, we're just human beings that may do things a little differently, but we're still human. So, so that just triggered that memory.
Yeah, and I've asked them about the fear. What is it? And you're absolutely right. Some of them say it's the fear of they don't know what it is, or and they also are afraid. The number one response I get from that is their fear to offend. They're afraid that if they do something or say something, they're going to offend you. And I said it's more offensive if you assume than it is if you just ask. Because if you ask, they'll tell you. I mean,
exactly.
You can ask me, if I'm comfortable, you can ask me, there's all the things that you would ask someone else. You can ask.
Yeah.
And believe me, they've heard it all. So you're probably not
yeah.
So I appreciate that. When it comes to websites and things like that, before Puffin and before those, what were some of the obstacles? And does Puffin kind of take that away for your specific disability?
Yes, because Puffin basically acts as a mouse. So I do not have any visual disabilities. So that part of navigating a website, in that sense, it's not a problem for me. It's more the scrolling and things like that. On a desktop, it's not as significant, but on a mobile device, depending on the device, depending on how the site was designed to interact, that definitely I've had some issues with, and the Puffin has definitely helped with that. Also having the assistive touch like on an Android or I think it's called the same thing on iOS. I'm a very new iOS user in comparison to Android. I've used Android all along and just switched to iOS a few months ago, so I'm very, very new in comparison. But with the assistive touch also, you have that option where it allows you to scroll or navigate with arrow buttons on your screen. So that has helped as well. But there are websites where they just don't acknowledge a mouse pointer on a mobile device. And that makes it really hard to navigate. So yeah, there are some challenges, and I hate going on websites on my mobile device because of that. It's really hard to navigate websites on my mobile device, especially if they're not designed to respond to those adaptations or accessibility features that are incorporated into the platforms of that mobile device. So whether it's Android or iOS.
All right. Glenn, what is it that they're missing? So as you know, you do take care of a lot of the accessibility stuff, and you're right, most people are looking at the visual. So when they're making their websites accessible, what is it that they're missing on that part?
You have some websites, believe it or not, still in 2021 that aren't mobile responsive, that aren't built mobile first. And then you have other platforms out there, without naming them, some of these ones that feature that, you can have a website cheap and you can build a website in 2 hours and be out making money off it on the beach. But when you look at the features that they have on there that make it look cool, make it look on your desktop that's very interesting, well, a lot of the technology that they're doing to make things look cool isn't available on mobile yet. So you may have like a side nav on a desktop that looks kind of cool, and you see these buttons out there, but that technology isn't advanced on the mobile side yet enough for it to be functional. So it's, again, understanding to not have form override function. If function is your foremost objective, you're going to have a lot more interaction and a lot more people being able to use it, hence a lot more business. So it's just not getting hung up on the phone. See, Tracy's very popular, Adriana. Yeah. I don't have these problems.
I'm trying to shut it off like my phone says that it's shut off. and then it kicks me off.
That's happened to me before where I
Sorry.
put do not disturb and it still rings.
It's off.
So yeah, those are a lot of the problems that you see on mobile devices. Is if you're using a inexpensive platform, it's just not geared. And anytime you build a website, I mean, that's the reason why a lot of these platforms you can switch when you're in the development mode between tablet, mobile, and desktop to see how is your CSS interacting, to see these things, to be able to test them. If your platform doesn't allow you to test across devices, you're going to miss something. It's just impossible to build something properly without testing it as you go.
And that's actually a trick I use on, like in Chrome. I'll put it in developer mode on purpose, for certain sites, and because sometimes the mobile version will navigate better than the actual desktop version, and so it'll think I'm on my mobile device when I'm on my desktop. And I can more easily navigate using, keyboard shortcuts or whatever, than if it were the actual desktop version. So yeah, I often use that trick on my Chrome to navigate especially certain social media platforms that don't work well, or are not meant to be seen on a web browser, but just using the app itself on your mobile device. So yeah.
Well, and again, their businesses are missing out by not making those sites accessible, because like you said, you're going to go to another one that is accessible and use their services, even though someone else may have a better product. I mean, it's why it's so important for people to understand that there are a lot of people and a lot of people that they're making it so that their services aren't available to. And if they do, and we know that we all talk to each other, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, did you see this site? And you can order anything and you can do this. So it's the same thing that we do, and share. All of your friends and community do the same thing. And so making those little changes make a world of difference to you, and you will support those businesses just like we do. Yeah. And so I think that so often businesses are thinking about the negative portions of it. Oh, it's just another thing I have to do. Or you say ADA and they want to run from you as fast as you can. But the reality is that they're missing out on a ton of business.
Exactly.
By not doing it. And so we just know that we are out there, stomping the pavement and getting people to understand that. Both Glenn and I come at them, I come at them from the physical aspect, and Glenn's going after them for the website, getting them to understand the importance of it and getting it done right. I will tell you that there's a lot of businesses that they don't mean to do it wrong. They just don't have the ability to know what's right or right. Like, I'm not a techie at all. And I depend on Glenn to, someone will say, this website's not done. I don't know if it's right. Send it to Glenn.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the physical. Then we'll step in and let them know what those codes are. So we are out there. Glenn, did you have any more questions about that? I have something I wanted to ask her about. I saw she does a lot of extreme sports stuff, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. But
I just want to add on one comment. We had a gentleman on that I interviewed on a different segment here about a year ago that's blind now. He didn't completely go officially blind, I guess, like 27 or 28, and he took programming and coding in college prior to that. So it was kind of interesting hearing his perspective when he understood some of these things you were talking about there with the developer mode. Is he was on a huge electronic retailer's website that did a good job of making sure their site was accessible, except they didn't test the checkout. And they went through everything and couldn't buy the product. And he's like, come on, it takes 30 seconds to change this, because he knew what you had to do to code the form and the checkout. He said, you get me all the way through your website and I can't buy from you. What good did everything else you did if I can't cross the finish line?
Right.
So it's just knowing how to test things so that it works for all types of devices.
Exactly. And that's something that we want to do with Quirk Labs, is have people actual users test out, whether it's their websites or new products that they're developing. Have actual people living with disabilities and not test it in a vacuum with these preconceived ideas of what some of the challenges might be for certain people with certain disabilities. Just have real people with those disabilities test your products, because
Right.
they're the ones that are gonna pick up on things that you would never ever pick up on. Like, I can't speak for people who are blind or visually impaired because I'm not blind or visually impaired.
Right.
Right? So I don't know the nuances and of navigating a website as a blind person. So I can't speak for them. I know the nuances of, as a person who can't use their hands to navigate a website. That I can speak to. So,
Right.
that's why you really need actual people with those disabilities to really go through everything, and because they're the ones that are going to pick those little things up that otherwise would not go noticed until you actually have a real customer, like that gentleman who went through the whole process. It was like, yay, I get to buy this because it's a website is so great and accessible, and then the end, again, couldn't cross the finish line because they forgot that part. So
Yeah. Well, that's the importance of having you and on our show and getting the message out to people. And exactly right. Ask someone who has a disability. I don't know, what that is. And so I'm always interested in the side of someone who has a disability, so that when I am out teaching businesses and talking about it, I can use examples from things that you have said and explain some situations that you've been in, so that we can start changing that thought process of when they're out in the work world, and make some change in that way, little bit at a time, but enough of us get out there and say it, and we're, maybe even if we can change just one or two, we've made a change. Yeah. And then hopefully someone tells someone.
Yeah, I think it's always money, right? So if you put it in terms of how much money they're losing, how much money they would lose by not thinking of, let's say you're going to a new business that's about to renovate or about to open. You save money by thinking ahead and taking that into consideration, accessibility into consideration beforehand, than having to redo everything all over again, because that takes time and money. And I think that's how people can understand the importance of doing it the right way.
Right. I'm always excited when I'm always excited when somebody wants me to do a plan check, because a plan check means that I can erase it on paper.
Right.
When you wait till you build it, then I have to tell you to take that wall down. They're not real happy with me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you speak their language, which is basically money, then they'll understand, and then they'll really get it in.
That's right.
Like, okay, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, let's talk about some extreme sports. Now I'm interested.
Okay, so I'm reading up on beautiful Miss Adriana, and I'm seeing all these pictures of crazy, scary things that I wouldn't do. What is that about?
Yeah, I would love to do them again. I only got to do them that one trip, so I haven't done them since. But I love speed. I love trying new things. So I got to do dog sledding, which was really awesome. So I was on this press tour in Montreal, Quebec. And I got to do dog sledding, adapted skiing, adapted snowmobiling. It was so much fun. It's this program in Canada called the Accessible Road. It's by Carol, and they're fabulous. And they really promote accessible travel. So I went during the winter, so I got to do all the winter sports / activities. And I loved it, and I want to do it again. I especially loved the snowmobiling, and the skiing was just amazing. Like, I had never gone that fast or flew in the air like that. It was just so great, and I'm just glad that my mom wasn't there, because she'd be screaming and like freaking out the whole time. So, but it was great, and I would do it 100 times again. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was thought, oh boy, if I have no room to complain anymore. I could do anything, right? If Adriana could do it, I could do it.
I would love to like go skydiving, and I would love to do zip lining. Like, I'm a daredevil. I like that stuff.
She likes the speed. She has that need for speed.
Yes, I do. I definitely have the need for speed.
That's great. And what an inspiration that is, letting a lot of people who have disabilities realize that, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yep.
And it's out there. You might have to look for it and save up for it, but it's out there. So what do you want to do? I mean, like you said, jump out of a plane. I don't even want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. I know I'm going to be one where like the chute doesn't open. I'm not as daring, but I love it when I can see people that do it. Anyone. Yeah. My 91-year-old father-in-law would love to jump out of a plane. We just took him to one of those I-Fi places because that's all I could handle. Like, I can't see him jumping out of a plane, but he's ready.
How was that? Did you participate in that or no?
No, we did it as a gift, a surprise gift for him. Okay. But yeah, he thought it was great. But he would jump out of a plane. He, 91, he still plays baseball. Like, nothing stops him.
That's awesome. That's
great.
It's not the jumping out that scares me. It's the hitting the hard surface.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The splat.
Yeah, the splat. Yeah. Well, just don't think that you're gonna splat.
Yeah, statistics are with you. I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, you can go to the beach and get bit by a shark, right? Yeah, I mean, so statistically, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's that free falling thing that doesn't sound inviting to me.
But someone with twins and that we had on birth control, I've learned statistics don't apply to me.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Play the lottery though; it might run your way.
There you go. So, when it comes to a little bit of the website part of it, Adriana, I mean, and you mentioned a little bit about the mobile side. The one thing that we always try and talk to people and business owners is to get them to understand advocacy. Because what I try and explain to them is if you have a website that works for people with CP, with MD, with MS, with vision issues, with hearing issues, these seem to be fairly tight communities that you guys share with them. Mm-hmm. And when you explain to them off of statistics that when you look at the group of people in the U.S. with a long-term disability and the amount of money they have for expendable or discretionary, it's larger than some races in the country. So it really will pay off when you look at a return on investment from advocating and from bringing people in there because you are making it accessible to them.
Yeah, exactly. And the disability community is the one minority that anybody can join at any time in their life, any point in their lives. So, that's how people have to think about it. Anyone can become disabled at any point, and it could be anyone from any other race. So we are the one minority group that doesn't discriminate on who can join. Anybody can join at any point in their lives. So
yeah. And it's a great community. I mean, funny people. I am always laughing that they take life so easy.
We're people, so there are jerks. Right? We can be jerks. We can be just like anyone. We're just like anyone else. There are bad apples and good apples. Just like any other human being.
Right. Well, that's what I say when people ask, about the ADA lawsuits. I was like, what makes you think? I mean, are there not criminals out in the world? Do I look like a criminal? No, there's just bad apples.
Yeah.
So you please don't ever put anybody, everyone in that box,
Right.
because that's not the case. But that doesn't mean that you have a right to discriminate, them either way. But I don't want to be discriminated against either. And so getting them to understand that, and that's a lot of like where the fear comes in too, is they think everyone's going to sue them. No.
Right. Right.
No. But if they ask you to do something, you might want to pay attention.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Tracy, let's ask Adriana about your favorite subject when it comes to people in wheelchair and those truncated domes.
Yes. So, well, I call them ankle breakers because I'm pretty sure at some point I'm going to break my ankles walking on them. But people with physical disabilities, they talk to me a lot about the spacing on the bumps and how it affects their ability. Can you tell me a little bit about how you feel? I mean, we talk to, the blind people, we understand the need for them, but we also need to talk about some of the ways that those truncated domes affect people with physical disabilities.
Yeah. So they are interesting things to navigate. That's for sure. Luckily I use a power chair, so my chair doesn't work for me, right? I'm not struggling to push it manually. For those who use manual chairs, might say something different, and then it can be very difficult to navigate. And yeah, I don't know what to say because I know why they're there.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that my access is more important than anyone else's ability to access where they want to go. So maybe someone just has to just invent something different. Right?
What about the vibration? What about the vibration of them? Because I've heard from different people that the vibration of rolling over them can really rattle.
See, I don't have. I mean, you've seen what I've done snowmobiling,
yeah, you'd like to rattle,
dog sledding, and skiing. So I don't think that's that doesn't affect me as much with regards to the vibration, especially since I've done those other things that cause a lot more emotion than that. I do have to say though, because I drive with my mouth, so the joystick right here is how I drive my chair. And if a place is, if a surface is bumpy or difficult to navigate, I do have to kind of go a lot slower so I don't have to keep my mouth on the joystick as much. So I drive in latch mode, and latch mode means that all I do is hit it once and it goes, and until I hit it again, it'll stop. Or it keeps going until I hit it again. And then I only may tap it to direct it left or right, depending on where I'm going. So if there is a bumpy surface or whatever, I will go really slowly so I don't have to keep my mouth on the joystick to navigate left and right. And because otherwise I will definitely hurt my lips. And that's happened, as I throughout the years growing up, because that's how I've always driven my chair. So that's my way around
right?
That situation is just slow down and get over it, and then that's it.
Well, it looks like she's probably in the Cadillac of wheelchairs. Somebody that's in the Yugo wheelchairs might have a different experience.
Right. Right. So that's what I'm saying. For me, it's, but I think it's also common sense. There are people that I've known who use power chairs, and have been thrown from their chair, and it's like, well, it's a brick paved sidewalk, right? I'm in Boston, okay? Boston has a lot of brick. And that it's brick, bricks are missing in certain parts of the sidewalk. It's bumpy. Why are you going full speed on a sidewalk that is brick? That's just, common sense, right? Don't do it. Don't do that. Wear a seatbelt so you don't fly out of your chair. I wear my seatbelt when I'm in my chair, but I also wear it because it keeps me in position as someone with spastic CP. My body's just all over the place, so I need the seatbelt on. But it's just common sense. It's being responsible for yourself, for your well-being, and and that's what upsets me. I understand complaining about holes inside, big cracks and things like that. Yeah, that's horrible. But then suing someone because you fell out of your chair because you were not being responsible for your own actions. Why do they have speed bumps on streets? It's so you're not flying down the street. And if you're speeding on those speed bumps, you're going to hit the bottom of your car.
Right? Or roll.
Yeah. And damage your vehicle or what have you. Or injure yourself. And so the same thing. If you're not being responsible with your own equipment, your own chair, then I'm sorry, but that part is on you. If someone else is pushing you like in a manual chair, I can understand that could be a little different. But if you are operating your own power chair, I'm sorry, I don't tolerate people, and I've known people who have sued cities over and over again because they've fallen out of their chair. And that just pisses me off because it makes the rest of us, as you said, right? People fear that they're going to get sued.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's unnecessary. I'm sorry, but people need to take some responsibility for their own actions as well.
So you're saying those of us without disabilities don't have the exclusivity of being irresponsible and having no common sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well said.
It's a human condition, right? We're either responsible or we're not.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Well, I definitely want to say that if you, as you're moving along with your Puffin product, that I always want you to be able to send that out so that we can help you promote that to the disabled community. And I certainly hope that you have lots of success, and I hope that you are able to inspire other disabled people to invent some products that will make their lives easier. And when you hear of those products, I want you to please send those on to Glenn and I both, so that we can share that with people as well.
Definitely.
And
and that's the other thing about Quirk Labs is we hope to, collaborate with other people with disabilities to, create solutions, right? Leveraging all abilities for better solutions. People with disabilities are inherent problem solvers and innovators because the world is not designed for us. So on a day-to-day basis, we are always hacking life, right? We are always finding hacks to deal with whatever comes at us. So we are the best at innovating and problem solving and thinking outside of the box. So definitely, I will definitely share.
I just wanted to switch to this view because I realized when I was looking below that we could get a better view of the Cadillac when we had a bigger picture of you.
Yeah.
Look at that arm there.
This is
Wow.
my control center right here. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
That's like Mission Central at NASA almost.
I know.
Well, listen, don't tell her about a rocket launch because she might join that. She likes the speed.
Yeah. That would be great. Yeah.
Well, Adriana, we can't thank you enough for coming on, sharing what you're doing, sharing your experiences and stuff like this, because as we talked about privately before we started this, I think the more people can understand obstacles, the more they can understand, like you said, the problem solving skills that you guys have to have just because of the nature of your disabilities. I think the more we understand things, hopefully, people will actually talk to you and they will understand kind of what what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This was great.
Yes, and I'm excited to hear that you're heading outside this weekend. Don't forget to hug a tree because you haven't seen one in a while if that's the case. So exciting stuff.
Yes. And last night was my first in-person event with other people. So it was great being around other people and seeing old friends and seeing new friends that I've only have worked with virtually for the past year. So it was like meeting them for the first time because we had never met in person. So it was really nice.
That's great to hear. Congrats. I know we're loving getting out as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone would want to reach out to you or to maybe find out more information about the Puffin, what's the best way to communicate with you, Adriana?
So they can find me on Twitter at Adriana Mallozzi. So my first name, Adriana, and then my last name, Mallozzi, Mallozzi.
Okay.
Yeah, or Puffin, so INNO. Is also the Twitter handle for Puffin, so Puffin Puffin Innovations, yeah. So either way, that's how you can get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks a lot for coming on. We'll keep in contact with you and may have to ask you to come back to visit again in the future.
Great. Well, thank you. I'd love to.
All right. Take care, everyone. So we'll see everyone back same time next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.